wall. The present fortification for the old city was re-fortified the walls of the city of Jerusalem.
There's our hotel over there. On the side of the...
Yeah, to the left you can see Mount of Olives and also our hotel, the Seven Arches Hotel, on the top of the mountain. Facing us here is the Muslim cemetery. Zechariah too. Zechariah, he was the son of high priest of the temple, and this area is called the Ophel. It was very deep valley. It's called
This is the valley of Gehenna, the place that would burn the trash outside the city. Gehenna comes from the word that means child crying. Some of the Jews influenced by idolatry offered their children up to the god Molech. You can always see the smoke and the fire from this part of the city.
To the right here you can see one of...
To the left here is the Herodian, and also Bethlehem off to this side over here.
Most hot issue between the Palestinian and the Israeli. The Israeli government is trying to build a settlement there to the left. You see the mountain to the left? Almost everything is resettlements, especially here in between
We'll be staying here in a few weeks for about 6 weeks.
Now we are in Bethlehem, Beit House.
The summit of the Herodian, Herod's palace, about 5 miles outside Bethlehem. Down below here is Herod's pool. Yes, it is. And there at the top of the Herodian, where Herod had his fortress palace, at the summit. And here's some of the excavation of the palace itself. Another group down below there. Again, from the top of the Herodian, this is the area where it would have been Boaz's threshing floor. Story of Ruth and Naomi. This area through here.
And the Augusta Victoria.
This is Jerusalem off in the distance here, with those 3 towers.
That's Mount of Olives. Can you see it?
This is Bethlehem here.
And from there we drove here. Many of these houses 10 years ago were 10 nomads. By the way, recently they started.
Bethlehem about 2 miles south of Jerusalem.
About 10 miles to the south. Behind those hills over there.
That's Bethlehem, city of David. This is a hot bath here. Back here, the changing room.
The cold room where they kept the water. The hot bath here is kind of...
What is that?
So the floor was on the top of this pillar, and they put a lot of wood and they burn it under this floor. By that, they made the floor very hot. They pour water on it, and the water steamed. Of course, that made good sauna. And here they have the pipes for the circulation, ventilation. So they used to enter with the special shoes made of wood. There was a special high seats, so the heat cannot reach them. So this was the hot bath. And in this, like also the same as I said in Masada, this was the warm room between the hot and the cold room over there. Only here you can see a perfect rounded arch. Dated back to Herod the Great. So this was the warm room in between the cold room and the hot room over there. The cold room was here, here they kept cold water.
That's nice. Plus there you have the fresco that goes with it. Here it's been eroded away. He had beautiful.
Entering Herod's living quarters back in this section. They became a synagogue after the first revolt.
For the Jewish people till today, they go to the ritual bath, to have ritual bath, when they feel tim'ah. Tim'ah means impure. So when they feel not pure is, I'll give you an example. When they touch dead man, then they should go to the mikveh. The woman, because of the period, because of the blood, they should go to mikveh. So they might go once in a week or twice. So you
can see the plaster on the wall.
Plaster on the wall.
They would collect the rainwater in here.
You are here.
The tunnel's back this way.
So the system becomes as the openings to escape. Let us escape.
Let us escape from here, says Jarius.
Push them, so they like it.
Threshing
It
floor.
was Disneyland for them.
Attach a board to a donkey, then walks over and smashes
Disneyland of my father.
We're at a shepherd's cave here on the outskirts of Bethlehem. Formed naturally, but the beams naturally are not natural. Spacious living quarters here. We'll make a complete circle and follow the group this way.
We're going to have a devotion here after Jerry's finished.
Find an inn in Bethlehem. In Bethlehem, in Jesus' time, it was a small village. There was no inn, no hotel, nothing. It was all caves like this. If you read the Greek version, it's more clear. They didn't find any place here, the front of the cave. They find place at the back of the cave with the animals. So we believe that Joseph and Mary, when they went in, it was this part of the cave. And the stable is inside at the back. Even one of the Jesus parable, he said about a man who came to ask his neighbor for a bread. And his neighbor, he told them, I will disturb all my children in order to give you the bread. Why? Because at least he has 10 children. They were shepherds, and they were to stretch. They stretched on the floor here. They slept on the floor here, over all of them. And that this is the reason the bread from inside. So this is the way how they used the cave in Jesus' time.
There's a lot of books that have been written in the world, but there's one book that outsells them all, and there's one book that is read more than any other. That, of course, is God's Word, the Bible.
See outside the cave.
Larry, you need to be a little more meditative.
Back to the bus.
You're looking too much like a tourist.
Now in downtown Bethlehem at the Church of Nativity, traditional spot of the birth of Jesus.
Queen Helena, above the cave of where Jesus was born, the birthplace of Jesus, and from here came the name Nativity, which means birthplace. This is the only church which was not destroyed in the Holy Land. It still stands intact from the year 325 up till today. But many modifications had happened to the door itself, and from the modification you can tell how the Christian they felt in this land just by looking at the door. Of course, when they felt secure, when they felt huge door. So the first door of Queen Helena, you see the black arch. First arch. The black arch on the top. Huge door. Queen Helena controlled the whole area. controlled the Minor Asia, part of Europe. So they didn't have many enemies. Second door, the door of the Emperor Justinianus. You see the lintel? That's the second door of the church. The Christian emperor had problem with the Samaritans. They slightly burned the church.
That's Justinian.
Justinian,
Yeah,
yes.
that's the church.
Justinian, then after that,
Yeah, you need that one. Stay put. Stay put.
so this is the first floor of the church. This floor, the floor of the year 325. Now, the Samaritan during the 6th century, they rebelled against the Christian emperor, and they slightly burned the city. He covered this mosaic with the cruise day.
What's a picture?
These are the newest members of our tour group here. It's the McGuire sisters.
With the cave of Saint Jerome or Geronimo, over there is a group saying Mass. And this cave, they call it the cave of the first by King Herod. So here they show the tombs, small tombs of those children, and they call it the cave of the Holy Innocents. Now, when we say that King Herod, he killed the children.
These are tombs here of the children killed by Herod the Great, possibly 15 to 20, because of the age and also the size of the city of Bethlehem. The cave of Jerome, where he translated the Bible into Latin, Vulgate. He was buried here at one time. Paula is also buried here.
Gioiscono davanti a te, come si gioisce quando si miete e come si gioisce quando si divide il bottino, poiché tu come
This is the Catholic Church, which was built in the 1880s, attached to the Greek Orthodox Church of the Nativity. Every December 24th, they have a live Mass broadcast from here to Catholics all around the world. Now we'll go back into the Greek Orthodox section.
To the saints' life. For each biblical event, there is icon. Of course, this is the famous icon of Nativity. The icon was the best way to teach the Bible, because not many people knew how to read Greek. Look at this icon. You see, always the faces are not in proportion with the body. The faces, big faces. That's to emphasize the holiness of the person in the icon. Now, Mary always appears in blue and purple. Blue, she's human, covered with divinity, because she had Jesus in her womb. So blue represents human, purple, divinity. Now the icon will tell you whatever you need to know about the biblical event. Let us have a look on this icon. This is the three magi. This is the angels. This is the star which guided the magi. This is the shepherds. This is the angel of God telling Joseph, take the child.
Back to the Church of the Nativity, entering the grotto that has the traditional place of...
And the whole cave is the cave of Nativity.
This place here marks
14 heads, 14 generations from Moses to King David, from King David to the exile, 14 generation, from the exile to Jesus, 14 generation. This is the reason the star has...
Here they say was the manger, this spot.
14 generations from King David to the exile, 14 generations from the exile.
Are you ready? Yeah.
We're now at the checkpoint for those Palestinians who live in Bethlehem but want to go back into Israel, drop their cars off here, and then with the special permission go into Israel to work.
Yeah, this checkpoint is Israeli police. And to the right one more time, the Benedictine Church. What's dormition mean? Dorm mean to sleep. The fall asleep of Mary. This is a tradition. It say that Mary fell asleep on the top of Mount Zion, and from there they took her body to the Kidron Valley, and from there she assumed up to heaven. That's part of the mystery of earth, the Sultan's pool. The Sultan's pool.
The walls of the old city.
The private.
It's Jaffa Gate. These walls here are built by the Ottoman Turks in the 14th century.
Sulaiman al-Azim.
Built in
Great.
1537. This is the northern wall of the old city. Behind us we pass the Damascus Gate. From that point, Paul began the road to Damascus to persecute the Christians. The Church of the Ascension here on the top of Mount of Olives.
Of the mountain, Mount of Olives was very important mountain for the Jews. On this mountain, long time ago, they used to offer red cow. They used to burn it here and to sign themselves by the ash of the cow. They carried the blood of the cow, huge procession to the Golden Gate. They entered the Golden Gate, they gave the blood for the high priest, and the high priest offered the blood on the altar of the temple. That had happened one day a year. Once in a year, the day of Kippurim, Yom Kippur, the forgiveness for the sins, or the day of the atonement. Later on, the mountain became very important for the Christian because the Christian, they like to take souvenirs.
They rub it, it wears off.
This marks about a Sabbath day's journey from the walled city of Old Jerusalem.
So you can find it about this in the book of Acts, chapter 1, verse 12. The reading starts from the book of Acts, chapter 1, verse 7. And we mentioned about Jesus taking his disciples Sabbath journey. The Byzantine church was built here, 4th century church, was opened without roof to emphasize the ascension of Jesus. It was destroyed by the Persians, was rebuilt by the Crusaders, and the Muslims, they changed it to a mosque.
Pater Noster, the Lord's Prayer Church.
So this is the church of Pater Noster, which means our Father in heaven. Our Father in heaven, the Lord's Prayer. It's the place where Jesus taught the prayer for the second time. The first time he taught it in Galilee. This is one of the first 3 churches which was built by Queen Helena. We saw the Bethlehem Church, Nativity. This is the second, and also the Church of Holy Sepulchre. The first 3 churches were built by Queen Helena. The 3 churches were above caves. Here there is the traditional side, the cave where Jesus taught that prayer, our Father in heaven. Now, the church was destroyed in 614 by the Persians, like all the churches in this country. It was rebuilt by the French princess. She gave him money to restore the church, to prayer. And here we found old tombs in the crypt of this church. The cave itself was crypt in the Byzantine church. The Eastern habits still today in many communities in the crypt of the church. Now, in this church, you can see this mutual relation between Jesus and this city. How this city, the people of this city, how they thought about Jesus, how Jesus he thought about this city, how he felt about this city.
Well, they're all.
Did you see the rosemary?
Yes.
We could cook a lot.
Just on the side of the Mount of Olives, hundreds of tombs of rabbi and religious elite. Then you have rocks on the top. People bring rocks instead of flowers. Show respect for the dead.
I know it.
You don't have any like that.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Garden of Gethsemane. Some of the trees at least 1,000 years old or more. The loveliness of this place here. Along the outside wall is some lovely bougainvillea flowers blooming.
Understand these three important places, let us put in order all the important events in the last hours of Jesus' life on earth. Jesus had the Last Supper on the top of Mount Zion with his disciples. After Mount Zion, he went down to the Kidron Valley, he walked the Kidron Valley, and he went to a cave, a grotto. Over there, he went with 11 disciples.
This is the oldest tree in the garden. Dates back. Olive trees really never die. There's always new shoots coming out from older plants. Beginning our descent now to the Judean wilderness, en route to the Dead Sea. Began at Jerusalem about 2,000, good pace now to arrive at about 1,300 feet below sea
March
level.
and April, the area more green and sometimes a little bit colorful. But of course, all that green, it cannot stand the heat of the sun, and it don't last more than 1 month or two months. So the dry grass is good food for the animals.
Behind us, we passed the Valley of the Shadow. That's on the road to Jericho, where there's often thieves and robbers. So it's also a place of death. So, in the language of the Valley of the Shadow.
Of life is their sheep and goats, and they keep wandering. They move from place to another place in order to search for reward.
Along the way here, we see several Bedouin tribes raising the sheep and the goats. Many of them have 30 children. And of course, more than one wife to take care of them all.
Abimelech, do you remember these stories with and the Abraham's sons, in order to understand, to have better...
We're now at sea level, but still going down another 1,300 feet. Now in the Jordan Valley. Over there is Jericho, and to the right, we'll see in a few minutes, the Dead Sea.
That means a long rift in the ground. It starts in the sand where is the lift.
It came out of the hills
The
here
Moab
behind us.
mountain facing us over there, that's part of that one of the 800 years more, we won't have Dead Sea. We'll see that the middle of the Dead Sea already dried up. Of course, there is no enough water, and add for that, it's very hot area, and very high percentage of evaporation here.
These are harvested in October, the palms and the dates. So here you can see the Red Sea, or the Dead Sea, excuse me. Not red, but dead. The natural border between Israel and Jordan.
Considered to be net. The mountains to the right is made of the sediments of the fishes or the alive stones, calcium sediments. But the sodium, the calcium, the rock. Look to the left, you can see ruins of old anchorage to reach this place. So, because the mineral in the other side is Moab Mountain, and that's Jordan. The Moab Mountain, we could view it yesterday from the Herodion. The Roman army to leave the summit and come down here. The Zealots stayed on the top from the year 66 AD till the year 73 AD. This is the third period of Masada, and we call it the poverty period of Masada.
GK's got the show.
I think he lost.
Waiting for the cable car ride at the top of Masada, the natural fortress of Herod the Great.
Move inside, please. I mean, I was ready to walk up. I was saying, let's all walk up. But they've got it closed, so we can't. That's all that. All right.
Rats. I know you hated that.
No, I think there's doing some renovations.
Rats.
Can't walk.
We're on the cable car now, but 125 of us. Feels that many. I'd say maybe 50 people here. What do you think?
You see one off in the ravine there? Still has bodies in it. Something's missing.
No one's missing the clothes and out of your mouth.
I'd be on.
Here's another resting spot.
Shot college.
It's probably like
Yesterday, walking on the south side. Matter of fact, the other day I was playing golf.
Very thirsty.
The guy I'm playing with, the lobbyist, he's talking to somebody on the phone. I was going to hit a shot, so I got to be a second. So waiting till so I got to hold the phone in case the guy comes on. Hit his ball.
I've been kept perfect. That wall goes all the way around.
I would say at least
And up on the side of the cliff, not the side, up the side of the cliff.
how'd you like to be the garbage man? These garbage
The other side.
come along with garbage.
Back to there.
Circle garbage, I'll be back tomorrow.
There's our path we just traveled. That way is the Dead Sea. Getting off.
Oh, she did. She's not going to
Get to the top is like a trap door. Region here lift itself. There's another to the other side, the northern side of Masada.
This will hold enough water for 5 or 6 years, we were told. Collecting the rain water. Huge hole.
What are the 5 periods? The first period, it was the period of the Herod the Great. The importance of this place. This place is very strategic place. It's very well protected, naturally protected. From here they call it Mitsuda, which means the natural fortress. From here, very important, in the Transjordan there was the enemies for him. He built here 2 palaces. That's the western palace over there. You see the casement wall, 2 parallel walls, one run next to the other. In the middle, in between, empty. They use it as a dwelling place for the soldiers. Of course, the roof, they use it as observation towers. They could walk all around this forest to see, to observe about. So we have the place where they extract the salt. From where they extract the salt from the sea. Look at the southern part. The way that they extract the salt from the Dead Sea, they divide the sea to many pools. It's stable. If the water is stable, it's not troubled, then the salt will subside. So the best way to make the surface stable is to divide it to many pools. All these palaces, of course, he used the local stone. From here, he mined the stone. He cut the stone out of these places, and this is one of the quarries which was discovered here in order to build all these buildings. But in certain places like in Megiddo, do you remember the gate? He had to use the cube in order to reinforce the critical places. I'll show you exactly where he used it. And that stone, they had to bring it from Jericho, the sandstone. And they carried it on donkeys up here through the snake's path. In his palaces, he used the most beautiful stones of Galilee from the north in the Temple Mountain. He used the stones, which is about 570 tons. Now here, he had to be satisfied with the local stone. They cannot do here. It's too much to ask from your manpower and your slaves.
So it's camping here.
Yeah. So this was one of the quarries. And finish, this is very important. The finish is perfect. They plastered everything and they painted with frescoes. In many places we see very beautiful frescoes, especially in his northern palace.
One camp here during the second period of the Masada history.
That would make it harder.
Worth getting up early.
This remains of the foundation of the Roman camp off to the side over here.
So many feet all the way around it. You can see right now.
This the roof at the back.
Oh, you want to look at the ramp back here.
Burning out. Yeah. I guess so.
This is a public bath house, and that's the palace over there behind the wall. But also the recent research it shows that this part of the palace is a big complex of bath house or private house for the king. Huge storing system over there, many stores over there, and the dwelling part of the palace over there. This wall was not here. This is the wall which made the whole problem, because it's divided, it's split. The dwelling part from this whole area was one palace, and this wall was built after the earthquake which struck this area. So the wall is recent to...
Black line here shows the area of the original stones, and above the black line is the reconstructed area. Now we'll enter the bathhouse of Herod. And Joanne leads the way. Again, notice the black is original to Herod the Great's palace. Notice still the colors are still quite bright after 2,000 years. Here. This was the hot room we're entering now. Then to the left of us would be the sauna room. And GK leads the way this time.
Also in the Rodium. But in the Rodium it was very hard to imagine how we have done a little bit of restoration for the floor. So these pillars, all these pillars supported a floor. So this was the level of the floor. When they entered, they walked on this floor. A little bit water on the floor, that created steam. Now, in order to bring oxygen to the whole system here, they have those pipes for cycling, for air cycling over there. Now, when they entered here, of course, they entered with the wooden chute.
This is the area between the two walls where the soldiers would be stationed or living sometimes. The outer wall to the left and the inner casement wall here to the right. The workers here are constructing a new cable car station. Some of the cut some of the storehouses here.
Jars there was dates, even grain and wheat for cooking, and also figs, dry figs. And beside that, preserve, for example, the cheese. Down there, there's the camp of Silva, the Roman leader, and then the 8 camps around the summit. Add for that, look at that wall. They call it a siege. We can understand the Roman mentality. They could control area which is included almost all the Mediterranean countries. So the Mediterranean Sea was almost a lake, a small lake in the...
Well, just a minute. Hey, buddy. Let's get around in front of him.
But the finish, very well plastered, and many frescoes and painting on the slope. They connected that camp with the upper camp over there in order to be sure, even from here, from the place which is impossible to run away, they wanted to be that wall. So the purpose was to catch all these rebellions and to punish them.
This tells us there was 8 camps around the Masada mountain. Here is the main Roman camp down below.
Yeah, you're preserving the mosaic, right?
These workers here are uncovering a mosaic on top of Masada.
Underneath it. Are you going to lift it or just reinforce it underneath? Yeah, and then re-plaster underneath. Are you going to put something on it? You sing it. Yeah. Good restoration. And really preserve it.
Very painstakingly done.
Probably, yeah. It's under the Department of Antiquities.
But the bar mitzvah really just means son of man. All of us automatically become bar mitzvah when we reach the age of getting expression bar mitzvah, whatever.
This is the service cable car. So the Romans, after they finish with the revolt in Galilee, the revolt first started in Jerusalem and Galilee. It started in Caesarea, Galilee, and Jerusalem. After they finished with the revolt in Jerusalem and Galilee, they came here and they besieged the mountain. We saw the Roman camps over there, and this the lowest place in order to reach the summit. The other places are very high. So this place is not that high. For that reason, they built the ramp. You see the ramp? Only the upper part of this ramp was made by the Roman. Most of this ramp was natural. This is the last research also about the ramp.
There's Western Palace.
Palace built by Herod the Great. It's different than the other the Northern Palace. This palace almost it was sealed. There was wall all around the palace. This is built in Western mentality, in Jewish mentality. As I told you, it's important for the outside not to see what was going inside. Now look at this part of the palace, the gate here. They used the sandstone which they brought it from Jericho, especially in order to reinforce in very critical places like this. So this was the entrance to the palace, and here was the gate where the guards, they checked the people who came into the palace. It's covered above it, restoration. They should build the restaurant.
You do well.
oldest mosaics which was discovered in this country. It's dated back to the time of King Herod, about 2,000 years old. In this mosaic, you can see only geometric shapes, figures, and that tells us something important about this king. He always was careful to behave according to Jewish law. Even in his private palace, he didn't allow himself to put any images. Maybe to please his wife, Miriam. She was Hasmonean, she was Maccabean, she was very religious. Also to please to his subject. But for sure, he was not that religious man. The bathhouse here is similar to that ceramics. These are not ceramics. This is original stones. Yeah? The red, why red? I told you the red is calcium with the iron mineral in it. Black, it's the volcanic stone. The area of Tiberias is full of that stone.
Basalt.
Yeah. Basalt stone and the limestone vibe to cook their bread. Yeah? So this explains the contrast in between these two periods. The glory of Masada and the period of poverty of Masada. The only thing they wanted.
Still in the western palace of King Herod the Great. Another one of his rooms. We just came from the bathhouse area. This is another one of his living quarters.
What they've done with this is what they're doing. Remember we saw them working on the other side and reinforcing underneath the mosaic? There's one like this there, and that's what they're doing. See how they...
This is Herod's bathing pool here. Notice the steps descending into the water supply. Here's my head down below there.
This is the closet. Everything, the whole thing was plastered. That means this place for sure contained water. Now, if it contained water, why the need of those closets over there?
These are the closets along the edge of the pool.
It's nice to imagine that the Romans who were working hard on the mountains and the zealots were swimming here. Now, but of course, it's not these zealots, even it's not Herod the Great who made this swimming pool.
Now we'll show you a panorama 360 degrees of the whole area here. The Dead Sea out this way off to the east. Off this way is the northern palace of King Herod the Great. Back this way is the Jewish synagogue. And then over this way here would have been Herod's western palace. Then back again to the Dead Sea. A bit drier than it was in Herod's time.
Front seat.
Yeah.
He's got that.
We're about to make our descent.
What grade?
Ready, break. You what?
What grade did you get in?
You don't use the word break. I got A's my first 2 semesters and then B my last semester. Who's the winner?
Yeah, Brad.
Here we go.
Hang on. I want the snake pad. Snake pad.
How fast are we going? What that sign say, Gary, over there? Oh. We could kind of get the number of seconds for the descent. Huh? There's our neighbors.
This would be half point. We could time it from here.
will not fall. You owe me 5 shekels, sir.
We don't want walkers. Okay.
4.5 shekels.
Just for you.
Special prize,
Nobody else.
Get off and kiss the earth now.
For you and your friend. Amen.
Here at Engedi, looking back towards the waterfall. Engedi means the spring of the mountain goat. In means spring, and the Gedi is the mountain goat from the area here.
I was still real animals.
Three of them. They look kind of like deer.
I say 4, one over against the hillside, Don. Against the trees.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw those, Stephen. Yeah, I saw them.
See the babies?
Yeah, this year could have been us up on that trail.
Be up there roasting.
The waterfalls of Engedi. Mountain goats are also called ibex, I-B-Y-X. In 1947, we'll be visiting soon the ruins of the community of the Essenes, as well as visiting some of the caves where the scrolls were discovered. Here's some of the caves in the hillside, some 11 to 13 different caves.
Yeah, so the name of this site for Qumran Qumru, it means hermit, hermits, monks. The people who lived here called the Essenes. Essi means doctor. So they were hermits and doctors. Even the name can tell us about what Josephus told us long time ago. He told us that the Essenes, they were a group, messianic groups, one of the 3 groups who lived in Jesus' time. And messianic groups, that mean that
This is the Essene Community Center.
as from here, so it was important to observe, watch over the routes of trade. So the Essene in the 2nd century BC, they built their community center around this tower. Could be here in the year 68 AD, the last Essene man, he stood here and he warned his friends to leave the whole area. 68 AD, it could be that he saw the Roman army coming. And the Essenes, they left this area. Some of them went to Masada, but we don't know what had happened to that group since the year 68 AD. Here you can see their huge system of water, many systems of water. You can tell how it's interconnected one by one. And the canal of water, which brought the water from that depression and fill in all these systems of water. It's clear from the amount of systems of water here, many systems of water, that this amount of water, it's exceeded any need for washing and drinking. They use this water for ritual baths also. For that reason, they needed many water. We'll see many mikvahs in the way. This is cave number 4, also was discovered by nomads. It was very difficult to notice that there was a cave there. You know why? Because that open, you see the open over there, which looks like window? That it's recent. It was opened by the archaeologists. So it's very hard to notice that there was a cave. The same nomads, the same Bedouins who discovered the first cave, they saw a bird leaving this space. They knew that there was a cave. There is space. So the entrance, the only active life is with this group. Why they have this idea about John the Baptist belonging to this group from the many ritual Baptists. We have discussed it yesterday in the Rodius, and I told you the difference between going to mikveh and the baptism.
Jerusalem to Jericho.
Those are the banana trees of Jericho.
The city is supposed to be a very promising
City
city.
of Jericho. Stopping here to have lunch in just a minute or two.
Come on.
Whoa! We're here in Jericho. Just finished lunch at the Temptation Restaurant. All for a camel ride. Hi-yo, Silver! There's some cave dwellers up here.
As I told you, the thing which is tell you why the tell is situated here is the water spring. The most important thing is the water spring. The water spring is down there. It's called Elisha Spring, and of course, with fields like this.
Well, here dates to about 3000 BC at least.
So it cannot be covered with defending the city. They backward and they found out that there was a cave down there.
But all places they did not do that. One area that they did not is the area north of here, Beth Shean, a place we couldn't see, but I really got to see Samaria instead. But as it approached that land, it discovered folks who had chariots, chariots of iron. And Joshua says, that's okay, you're numerous, God will be with you. The exact line is plain here, have iron chariots, both those in Beth-Shean and both those in the valley of Jezreel. And Joshua says, when the Israelites grew stronger, they subjected the Canaanites to forced labor, but they did not drive them out completely. There are many places like that. Joshua 1 verse 9, kind of Jewish labor. You're supposed to sing it slowly, then you go, hey, 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 speed up a little bit. Have I not commanded you be strong and courageous? Have I not commanded you be strong and courageous? Do not be terrified, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you, be with you, be with you, wherever you go. Have I not commanded you be strong and courageous? Have I not commanded you be strong and courageous? Do not be terrified, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you, be with you, be with you, wherever you may go.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, Joe, play some other songs.
Okay.
That huge tree.
It's a sycamore tree.
How do you do this?
They grow just there in a half-mile radius.
It was a tall tree, huge tree. But sycamore, it cannot live for 2,000 years. It's not like olive trees. So this is the reason I kept saying a sycamore tree.
A sycamore tree. But here in Jericho.
But as I said, this tree is not common. It's not native to the land of Israel. It grows only in radius of half mile here in Jericho. So we are very close to the place where Zacchaeus met Jesus. His wife, he killed his 2 sons from Miriam, and he killed her brother-in-law.
Herod's palace in Jericho.
Yeah, crazy about killing.
Schindler's grave, but we did not succeed because the gates were locked. But we've got the dung gate of Jerusalem way up there. You're seeing some of the better areas. We've got some olive trees here, but we just went through some pretty impoverished areas, and one of our party was attacked by a goat.
A kid?
Yes, and Don Kinder was attacked by about 7 kids. They all wanted a shekel.
Give me a shekel. Things you won't see on the guided star tours.
This is actually better than what we just walked through, but I think Don was too busy walking to pull out the camera at that time. Kind of area you want to just keep walking and smiling.
That's right. Say hello to the indigenous peoples.
That's right.
We're walking up the Kidron Valley about 6:30 p.m. on a Tuesday evening, June the 9th. Off to our left, we think is Absalom's tomb. Absalom, of course, the handsome son of David, rebelled against his father. And Brad Lake is up ahead, about a mile in front of us.
Those are the caves.
Yeah, always caves in Judea. Perhaps some shepherds still live here.
Probably not the cemetery. Cypress trees.
Right. We just passed several more youths saying, "Give me shekel, give me shekel."
This is holy ground.
Absolutely.
Ancient cemetery area. Probably a Crusader monument.
Joel thinks a Crusader monument. Could well be.
Little Ionic style.
Uh-huh.
Could be a chapel.
And some tombs back behind the area here. At the top of the hill is the Russian Orthodox Church. Onion-shaped domes. Looking up, the Mount of Olives. Our hotel is at the very top. This area straight ahead of us is the Garden of Gethsemane area.
Still in the Kidron Valley.
Still in the Kidron Valley. It was said during Passover times there were so many lambs slaughtered in the temple, the brook Kidron Valley ran red with blood.
Oh yeah. Let's see what.
These are not the best kept tombs here. The better kept ones are further up the hill. Many of these are in disarray, toppled over. Now entering the old city for the first time, going in through Herod's Gate. Entering now the Church of the Flagellation, the traditional place where Jesus was scourged after being condemned by Pilate.
It was a Passover, the feast for the Jews, Passover. Pontius Pilate, who lived in Caesarea, he came to Jerusalem. And he came to this fortress, because from this fortress you can see the Temple Mountain area. He can watch over the hundred thousands of the Jewish people who came to celebrate the Passover. And so early morning, they brought Jesus to him. After Jesus was arrested in the Garden of Gethsemane, they took him to Caiaphas' palace, where he was condemned according to Jewish law. He stayed one night in Caiaphas' palace. Early morning, the next day morning, early morning, they brought him here. Here was the huge fortress, the Antonia, where Pontius Pilate stayed during the Passover. So they brought Jesus early morning to be judged by the government, the Roman government. The accusation is very serious. Otherwise, you cannot bring somebody to be judged. Stations of the cross. Some of these stations are biblical, some of these stations are not biblical. The biblical stations are about 7 stations, and many stations were added, especially by the Europeans when they couldn't reach Jerusalem. Like Jesus fell beneath the cross. It's not the way of the flower, not the way of Dolorosa and the sun. Because from the deep depths of pain will come the salvation.
This is the second station of the cross. The original street would have been about 12 feet or so below the street here.
If somebody carry heavy weight, for sure he will fall beneath the cross. So the third station is the cross. Based on the position, she rushed to see Jesus before the crucifixion of Jesus. And inside this chapel, they found old Byzantine church. In the floor mosaics of the old Byzantine church, they found a figure of one Simon. Simon, he was from Cyrene. We believe that's city in Chad. So there was on this day.
Again, the original floor would have been about 8 feet or so below the level here.
Veronica, why? Because tradition says that Jesus' face was printed on her handkerchief. Red icon, the real image. That's the meaning of her name. So the traditional station carries the name of that Jesus' face was printed on the in her handkerchief. The seventh station. The eighth station is in this way up. It's about 20 meters up far from here. We won't see the eighth station because then we'll have to come back. The eighth station.
We've just come from the seventh station of the cross where Jesus is said to have fallen the second time. Skip the eighth station, now the ninth
this
station.
This is the ninth station of the cross. Jesus falls beneath the cross the third time. And actually the eighth station of the cross behind this monastery. We were supposed to come from the 7th, 8th, and the 9th. But this monastery was built right on the way of the cross, the Via Dolorosa. Just to give you an idea why the way of the cross today is zigzag, winding road, not straight road. When we go to the model, we'll see that more or less it was straight.
The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, but let's have a look.
Built around year 330 AD. Inside, it includes Calvary, Golgotha, and the tomb. And the last 5 stations from east. Remember when we start walking upstairs, when we left the market, that's the entrance to the church. Then there was a now, we'll enter the church, we'll turn right, we'll walk up to Calvary, the place where Jesus was crucified, or Golgotha. On Golgotha, Calvary, there's 3 stations of the cross.
This is the western entrance to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. It's the entrance here built by the Crusaders.
Jesus stripped from his clothing, well, on the top of Calvary, and in a moment we'll enter Calvary, we'll walk up to Calvary. After that, we walk down to the 13th station of the cross. Jesus' body was murdered, and then the tomb. So follow me through.
L'altro mai ci glorieremo seduti alla croce di Gesù Cristo, nostro Signore. Egli è la nostra salvezza, vita e risurrezione. Per mezzo di lui siamo stati salvati e liberati. A chiamare i peccatori, abbi pietà di noi. Signore, intercedi per noi presso il Padre, abbi pietà di noi. Dio Onnipotente, abbia misericordia di noi, perdoni i nostri peccati e ci conduca alla vita eterna. Amen. Preghiamo, Cristo tuo Figlio, concedi a noi che abbiamo conosciuto in terra il suo mistero di amore, di godere in cielo i frutti della sua religione.
Umiliò se stesso facendosi obbediente fino alla morte e alla morte di Cristo. Per questo Dio ha esaltato e gli ha dato il nome che è al di sopra di ogni altro nome, perché nel nome di Gesù ogni ginocchio si pieghi nei cieli.
Of Arimathea, John, the beloved disciple, Nicodemus, priest who loved Jesus secretly, and according to the Jewish habit, the body was. So this is the 13th station of the cross,
Jesus' body anointed. In a moment we'll go to see the 14th station of the cross. Was a cave, the tomb. Here was a mountain, slope. So the tomb was a cave in the slope of the mountain. Queen Helena, when she discovered the tomb, she cut the stone around the tomb. She's the one who made this circle, rotunda. She's the one who created this space. And she covered the tomb, the cave, with tiles for decoration. So this is the tomb. In Jesus' time, it looked like a cave with 2 rooms, like Lazarus' tomb yesterday. Yeah, 2 rooms.
I believe from this spot here that Mary and John stood, looking back towards the cross, this direction here. And Jesus said, "Mother, behold your son, and son, behold your mother." The cross, traditionally they say, is in the spot over here. Mass taking place at this time. This is the Gregorian song. Probably the western wailing wall over here.
And this is the Muslim quarter. We were just walking through the Muslim quarter, and now we are here. And we was a moment we were facing the Wailing Wall. The Wailing Wall. Now this tunnel, which we'll walk through in a moment, it exposed this part, the continuation of the Wailing Wall. Can you see it? This part. So we will be walking underground. Back we used about 20 years ago, we used to enter from here and we leave from here. The entrance and the exit one place. Today, the entrance.
These are the vaults for the bridge that Herod built to connect Mount Zion to Mount Moriah. These are the foundations for the Wilson's Arch, the bridge across between those 2 hills.
On the top of this mountain, long time ago,
Abraham came to offer his son Isaac. From here came the name of the mountain by God, the mountain of Isaac. So there was no builder facing us. It was the second temple. That's the meaning wailing for. They come to cry. The destruction, very simple, the first and the second. This was the second temple, as I said, was built by Herod around the year 22 BC. It was destroyed by the Romans in the year 70 AD, exactly. This room was the most important room, the most holy room. From here came the name, the Holy of the Holies. Why? Because they believe that Shekinah, the soul of God, dwelt in that room. And when the temple was destroyed, the Shekinah left the temple. So that's the reason that Holy of the Holies was the most important room, and the western wall is the most close. Now look at how it was deep in the ground, much deeper than the height that we see today, what's exposed today. And this is the foundation for the courtyard of the temple. So this is the Muslim quarter today. Now look how the Muslim quarter, it comes on the top of everything. It covers everything. Look, this is the present situation. And this is the wailing wall, very clear. Now it gives you an idea about how the present situation and how it used to be. And the tunnel, it goes underneath all these houses. This, for example, look at these vaults. These vaults support the chain street. The street we just walked. Remember when we walked? And we are looking at that part. Can you see the light here? Yes. 17 meters square. That means about 52 feet long, 52 feet width, and it's about building with 3 floors building. So it was a huge altar. Remember that they used to offer sacrifices on this altar. And Josephus told us that the priests used, because they were piles of animals over there. They came to offer sacrifices here, cows, goats, and these things. So there was piles of animals on this altar. So the priests, in order to burn and slew all these animals, they had to walk on the other side. Now, these things in the wall, like this, the Muslims above us, they use these spaces as a cisterns of water. And of course, in the cistern of water, they needed to come to clean the cistern of water. So I will reconstruct this thing to you. Look, this is the steps.
This is one solid stone through here.
That one stone. Here. This is one stone. This is the biggest stone which was discovered in this area, about 570. Holy of the Holies. It seems to be was passage for the priest to the Temple Mountain area. During the Mamluks period, during the Crusader period and the Mamluks period, the Jews, they used it as a synagogue.
This is the entrance the priest took to the Holy of Holies, this side wall here. Later turned into a Jewish synagogue because of its proximity to the Holy of Holies. Above us in the first century would have been open sky. This is Herod's wall to the right. Left would have been lots of shops. We're under the Muslim quarter at this time. Walking along the street that Jesus himself would have walked on in the first century AD.
Here, for some reason, run out of money, or maybe this is the point when he died. So this is the period, the time when he died. When we came after him, he didn't continue the project, his son Archelaus.
This is a pool by the Fortress Antonio, discussed also by Flavius Josephus.
So this is the king's games, and here the sword. It's perfect one, yeah? The sword, the dice, the crown.
This is a carving here showing the games the soldiers would play, casting dice to see who would beat the prisoner. Also showing a crown of thorns.
From here, this is the number this morning when we started the second session of the cross. I told you that the
This is a first century street here, area called the Pavement.
Make sure you get the road. The road's what we want. You can turn it up. Turn it up.
I think it's worth another, yeah.
Especially that right there, because that's a very good cut.
These were cut here so that chariots would have traction as they drove down the street. This would have been the street in which Jesus carried the cross. But notice the cuts here, horizontal cuts, giving some friction for the chariot wheels. Stopping here outside St. Anne's Church. I believe this is the Pool of Bethesda area. Quite lovely. There's Ruth Ann, new grandma. There's the old grandpa, new grandma.
Place of healing. The Egyptian guy.
Waters are troubles. The first sick man will enter the water, he will be healed. So for that reason they call it the pool of Bet Hesda, which means the house of mercy. Now if we were in Jesus' time, we would be outside the old city. There was two pools here. The wall of the old city is the Temple Mountain wall. The Turkish wall, remember, that's the 16th century wall. So we would be outside the old city, and we would be close to the Sheep's Gate. It seems to be one extend from there. You see the brown sign till the fence over there. The northern one is still buried under the ground, under those cypress trees over there. So because this place became important place for the Christian, no wonder the Byzantine,
Church of St. Anne, the traditional place of the birth of Mary. Gardens outside St. Anne's Church, beside the Pool of Bethesda, northern part of the old city of Jerusalem. Hear the birds chirping in the trees. And the bus about to leave us. In the old city now through this gate. On the side, so So Barbara says this is the Lion's Gate.
Yeah, right.
I took some picture the other way. I've been there, but sometimes they call it the...
This is also called Stephen's Gate, where Stephen was stoned outside the city wall here. Stephen, the first martyr, gave his life for the faith. St. Peter's Church here.
It has the Council of Priests. It had the highest Jewish authority to condemn any Jew according to Jewish law. The leader of the Sanhedrin in Jesus' time, his name was Caiaphas. So the church is built above Caiaphas' palace, where the Sanhedrin used to meet. So after the Last Supper, Jesus went to the Garden of Gethsemane. And Jesus was arrested in the Garden of Gethsemane. Then they brought him here to Caiaphas' palace in order to be judged by Caiaphas and the Council of Priests. The prisoners like this will change. And also there is 2 holes here for tightening the prisoners. Now they used to scourge the prisoners 40 times -1. They believe, the Romans, they believe the -1 act of mercy, because the one might kill. So
the prisoner will be lowered through this hole about 3 meters below, 9 feet or so through the hole. Windows, they can view the prisoner down below. They kind of keep watch up above the pit area here. Maybe in that later Byzantine church, the actual guard window there off to the right side. Window over on this side. They can look down and see the prisoner below, make sure they're still safe and doing well. So mikveh is discovered here, showing the house belonged to a very prominent person, probably the house of Caiaphas.
Garden of Gethsemane is behind the Temple Mountain area. You can see the Mary the Magdalene Church, the onion domes away from here. That's the Garden of Gethsemane. After Jesus was arrested over there, he walked through the Kidron Valley, and then in his time there was a gate down below at the bottom of the valley. From there he walked these steps. They call it the sacred steps. You see this step, then to Caiaphas' palace. We are sure that Jesus at least was there, and when they brought him from the Garden of Gethsemane. Places, the Turkish, they included more.
These are the steps that Jesus walked up at one time. Valley of Gehenna this way.
Can you see the Greek Orthodox monastery inside the wall?
Yes.
To the right there is caves, 2 caves. That's the traditional site of Hakil Dima, the place where Judas committed suicide. You see the Greek Orthodox monastery.
Place where Judas committed suicide.
That's the place where Judas committed suicide. Yeah, the field of blood, the book of Acts, chapter 1. 5,000 years ago,
It's our hotel on the top of the Mount of Olives, 7 arches.
By 3 deep valleys. The Kidron on the other side, the street itself, it is the same Toropium Valley. Remember this morning when I showed you the map was filled up by Herod the Great. We're
the German German cemetery just south of the wall of the city, opposite from the a little bit north, a little bit to the west of the Dung Gate and St. Peter's church we just come from. And this is 1,000 or more Jews from the Holocaust of the Germans. A complex hero. Is, of course, as most rocks of any tomb here in the cemetery. Just below Schindler's tomb would be the Valley of Gehenna. Is, of course, the most decorated tomb here in the cemetery.
We've been there 10,000 years. We've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. And your dangers, toils, and snares have already come. 'Twas grace that brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead us home.
Is Zion Gate?
Yes, the marks on the wall, the holes are from the Six-Day War.
Wow.
1967. That was modern warfare.
Yeah.
He built all the city around the church of Holy Sepulchre. So this church was the church of Holy Sepulchre, it was the center. Here is the mass. Now actually, we enter from Mount Zion Gate. If you continue, if you follow this corridor, it will lead you to Damascus Gate. Till today, the city.
Entering now the Cardo, or the Column Street of ancient Jerusalem.
As I said, it was the open market of this city, and the whole area was shaded with pillars. This place was shaded with very light roofs, and the same thing the other side. And the street went here. The others also another side of the
We're now in the burnt house, which was burnt during the takeover by Titus in 70 AD.
Armies in Judea marched on Jerusalem to brutally assert Rome's domination over the Jewish people. It was the 4th year of the Jewish revolt. The Jewish historian Josephus witnessed and recorded the destruction of Jerusalem in his book, The Jewish Wars.
Some of the potsherds and pottery in the old house, this burnt house. Here's the stone table we saw in the video. We're in the Jewish quarter of the city looking east, some of the ruins of the old Jerusalem, looking across the hill. There's the Seven Arches Hotel. And moving more to our left, we see the Wailing Wall here. Walking away in just a moment. Right beneath the Dome of the Rock.
From the burnt house. On the burnt house, you saw the sign, the traces of the huge destruction on the city during the
First century street here.
Why they
Old
left
shops.
stones, the rubble over there, the huge piles of stone. This is the stone, this is the destruction of Titus. All the stones fell down and it went on the street. So that's the destruction of Titus.
This is part of Robinson's Arch here. It's discovered by an archaeologist named Mr. Robinson.
Maybe so, huh?
The southwestern part of the wall. First century street here, and the stones that Titus toppled over in 70 AD.
Church of Holy Sepulchre. Do you remember the church this morning? So the patriarch, the bishop of the city, he wanted to flatter for the king. So he invited the Omar to pray inside the tomb. Omar refused. He said, if I pray here, the Muslims probably will come into the mosque. So he left the church. He said, this is holy place. Left and he prayed outside. So today there is a mosque outside the church of Holy Sepulchre. The third successor after Omar, his name was Uthman. Uthman, he's the one who compiled the Quran. The fourth,
They serve it, huh?
In tomb, this is the hillside with showing sockets and a mouth. Some call this the place of the skull. Here, also near the garden tomb.
Therefore, although there's debate about where the walls went, in this particular case we believe the walls were outside the city wall, at a place that could have been called the place of the skull for geological.
Here at the garden tomb.
Paul and on stage watchman.
Only room for the 12.
And this is the channel that I was mentioning.
I've seen the Lord, that you told him that he said these things to her. Also, you know,
Here to stomp the grapes, a wine press. With the National Museum of Israel, we just finished the main building. Now going across the way to visit the Shrine of the Book. This is the cooling system keeping the insides rather cool, but this is spraying water on the roof. The top, the shape of the top of a pot. The tradition says that they cut the tree for the cross from this valley here. There's an old monastery there called the Monastery of the Cross. We're in the new section of Jerusalem now. Just coming from the model of the city, where video is allowed for $10. I chose not to video that spot. Leaving Israel about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, they do a great job.
Yeah. Anxious to get home.
Great ministry. Here comes the camera.
You awake?
I'm still waiting.
I'll show you the time over here.
This is what we look like.
Rainy day in Amsterdam. Going inside where the pictures must be turned off.
Well, all those other people, yeah, they did. They didn't just disappear, but it can't be. Isn't that?
We found the old pals back. We have a beautiful view now at the Royal Palace, with next door
Royal Palace, where Napoleon
decorated.
We're riding now on top of the Amstel River.
Here's the Hooters restaurant over there.
Everett Central Railway Station, built upon islands.
Coming up to the right is St. Nicholas Church. St. Nicholas is the patron saint of the city. It's our science and technology museum. The architect meant it to have the same inclination. They didn't, and this one would grind seeds, grain into flour for baking. Actually, this was Mosti things and not to stop. It was funny for the moment. We have to. Yeah, I tried the other time.
Here in Haarlem. Yeah, Lions Club sandwiches, BLT sandwiches. This is the downtown square of the city. Here are the residents of Corrie ten Boom.
Now, 43, a man came to the shop and asked for help. He said that he was married to a Jewish wife, but to be honest, he needed 600 gulden. Nowadays, 6,000, a lot of money. The family was not rich, so Father Kaboom was saying,
No, if
they opened the whole stairs, but we closed the stairs. It's too dangerous for us.
Yeah.
We're
fixing them
Flashing. Oh, yeah, but I mean, what significance?
Nothing on there.
Okay. Well, did they go through the bookcase to get in?
Yeah,
they did.
to get in.
That's just-
Yeah, down there where you were standing by.
They didn't go through that wall.
They were all crawled in there.
It would have been.
And she said Billy Graham and who else opened this? Some.
See the tulip bulbs, I like them in the time. You can survive it's only Swedes and tea. But Sweden and Canadian houses, they convince this food. And another thing you can make a small thing to make some wood in it, and in the evening for make a meal, for there was nothing to burn. These were ration cards, you needed a card like this. I think we did not make them jealous. But in Jeremiah 16 verse 16.
So we had to remove it and replace it by a wooden tower with a lead covering. So that next to it is the meat hall. You see the oxen head, and that's where they would sell the meat.
I took one down that street.
Into
City of Haarlem.
Protestant buildings. No, they became municipal buildings where the Protestants could have their services on Sundays. So there would be public buildings, and only on Sundays they would be for services. So in the weekdays you were in on one of the poles, grey bird on long feet, waiting for the blue heron. Yes. This is fresh water. In the Netherlands we have only fresh water, except for the harbor of Rotterdam. We have closed all the sea arms off. They were always causing big inundation. The last one in 1953 with 1,800 dead. So since that time they have really closed off the last sea arms. And
waiting at the airport to leave soon. Bill is comfortably waiting at the airport.
Pretending to be a roach.
Either playing the guitar or pretending he's a roach. Been a good week for all of us. We can do our final interviews now. What's your best memory of this trip here, Larry?
Sleeping on the airplane.
And your best memory, Joe?
Oh, my best memory is the thing that meant the most to me, and that was seeing the what they call the Via Dolorosa, places where Jesus was.
Yeah, that was special.
But lots of things we enjoyed.
Passengers Gilcom and Care traveling to Hanoi.
We've been to Sherry for Sherry's memories of the week here.
My favorite part was the singing and all the different chapters.
Yeah, that was nice. Something to tell this TV audience?
Something to say. I liked Sea of Galilee.
Yeah.
And that was the two things, Sea of Galilee and the Garden of Gethsemane. And I was not disappointed. And the singing.
Good places.
Good places.
Let's go to this side of the world and ask for your opinion of this last week's trip.
Well, it was all wonderful because we had such wonderful people. And it has been a great, great 10 days.
Wonderful guides, wonderful places.
Well, good guides too, but it was wonderful people on this trip.
And Daddy, what do you think about this past week?
Well, it's been a busy week, but it's been a fun week. And I think the devotional that meant the most to me was yesterday morning at the tomb.
Yeah.
And on the Sea of Galilee. I thought those were just
special
wonderful.
times.
Special times. The singing has been great.
Real wonderful.
Yeah.
Sea of Galilee was the best to me.
Yeah.
Because other things interesting, educational.
Good time. We're sharing our memories of the past week. What was special about last week for you?
Well, there were just so many unique things that were special. Learned a little bit, and I remember a little bit. But I guess really the thing that would stick best in my mind would be the devotionals, the various devotions we had, and some of the settings.
Yeah. All special moments, good times. Thank you.
Well, the one on the Galilee was probably number one, and I'd have to stop and think real hard.
Yeah.
I could probably sit and write them down, but just off the top of my head.
Yeah, there was so many great times. You're
It
right.
really was. I even enjoyed that Dome of the Rock thing just as to see it.
Yeah.
Just to see the what I call gross ostentation.
Yeah. It's still fabulous artwork. That's right.
And but anyway, it was a tremendous experience. But I guess one thing that I would say at my age was that you need to do it when you're younger.
when your calves don't hurt so much. Let me visit Virginia over here. What was your experience of this past week? Just share some memory or some thought.
I think I like the Sea of Galilee and the Garden of Gethsemane best, but best the singing on the mountaintops.
Yeah, those were all good times. And Ruth Ann, what was your memory of this past experience?
Being introduced and learning to enjoy and know new Christian friends.
Yeah.
And more appreciation for home.
That's for sure too. It's been a great week for all of us.
Yeah.
So thinking about his past week in Israel.